Hello and welcome to this video review of Victory Heat Rally from Playtonic Games, which is out now on Steam. I actually bought this game myself with my own money simply because I'd seen some videos of it a few months ago and I've really been looking forward to it. I've been playing it on a Dell G5 gaming laptop with an RTX 2070 in it, and that's what the footage you're seeing now is captured from, but I've also been playing it on Steam Deck, which I must say seems to run it even better than the G5. So, as you can see, this is another retro-inspired racer. Some journalists have been saying it's reminiscent of Sega's superscalar arcade games, particularly Outrun, but I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that they're wrong. It's actually very, very similar to one of Sega's other superscalar arcade games, namely Power Drift. From the way the sprites always face the screen and the roller coaster nature of the tracks, quite literally in one instance, also to the low angle behind the car and the way the screen tilts as you turn, this is so close to Power Drift, which is wonderful because unless you count the original Super Mario Kart, nobody's ever really tried to copy Power Drift's style. Yes, I know that's controversial, Super Mario Kart is very much its own game of course, but the similarities are there. As you can see, it's not afraid of colour, and the game absolutely pops with bright, friendly visuals, chunky, pixelated vehicle sprites, 2D smoke effects in the 3D space, and a pleasing HUD with big enough elements that this could have been a Game Boy Advance game. It looks really cool. There are cartoony, manga-esque characters in the brief story scenes, and an 8-bit styled world map where you travel along race events at the top and then move south to special events like cone dodges, drift challenges, and more. But how does it play? Well, this is the most disappointing element of the game for me. I didn't enjoy very much at all the first hour and a half of its 4-hour runtime, which is really strange because by rights, I should love everything about this game. But it just left me so cold, at least to begin with. The problem is the ultra-shallow driving engine. You accelerate with A, then hold the right trigger to drift. Problem is, you don't really need to slow down at all, ever, at least not in the races, perhaps in some of the slalom events, but you just hold the drift button and try to do that long enough to build up a boost, just like in Mario Kart 8. Like that game, it only lets you feel your boost on corners, so you can't just snake everywhere. Learn to do this, which doesn't take long if you've played racing games before, and you'll soon be able to generate at least one of the 3 levels of boost on every corner. You then zoom into the lead and stay there. Some comic relief comes from hitting lapped cars, in which the driver yells, but driving the tracks is only ever challenging when there's a chance of falling off them, and even then you'll have learned where the falls are by the second or third lap. I think I finished second in just one race in the entirety of the first third of the game, making for a pretty dull time. At this point, I want to show you footage of the very last race several hours later. This is how the game should have been the whole time. Look at the densely packed field of cars, the undulating track design, full of corners, and of course the skill needed to successfully navigate through the field and get up to the leader. So the game literally ends just as it's getting good. The other problem with this uber simplified steering is that for most of the game there just isn't anything else to do besides fill the boost bar and hit those lapped cars. You might think, well, surely that's enough if you're just enjoying the aesthetic, but my problem is that so many other games have offered similar but better. For example, Disney Speedstorm uses a very similar drift system, but that game is absolutely crammed with things to do from moment to moment, like rails to grind on, power-ups to collect and weapons to fire at your hapless enemies. You still get to do all of this driving and drifting, but there's so much more to it. Even when there's nothing else to do in Disney Speedstorm, there's almost always something to see. In Victory Heat Rally, there are no weapons, no grind whales, and the jumps just don't feel exciting enough. It doesn't help that the vehicles aren't animated very much at all. Even Power Drift had the drivers turn around and look at the camera, breaking the fourth wall. The drivers here aren't even named for the most part, only your rivals are. So as a result, you're mostly racing some faceless nobodies, and that's a huge missed opportunity when the rest of the game is so set up for cartoonish personality. If you do miss a landing on one of these jumps and explode, the game then puts you back only a few yards behind where you would have been, which means mistakes don't even matter too much when they eventually happen. Now that's great for inclusivity, and I know that not everyone knows how to play racing games like I do, because I've been doing it for 35 years. But considering the target audience is probably people my age, that doesn't give more experienced players anything to feel excited about. Without weapons or power-ups, the driving has to be great, but it isn't. It's all just very shallow, and it's really disappointed me. Sonically, the game sounds as you might expect, with cheerful music and arcadey sound effects, though some of the music tracks do great, like the one that seems to be shouting about the UK, which is overused. The Rumble in the Jungle one is decent though, and the electronic vibes of the Baytona beach tracks are consistent with the visual style. Overall, it sounds really slick, and I do like that very much. From a technical standpoint, the game is absolutely gorgeous on Steam Deck, running at a pretty flawless 60 frames per second, and I say that based on my experience rather than me using a frame counter. However, on my RTX 2070 enabled laptop, the game is normally that smooth, but for some reason, the rally side stages seem to suffer from slowdown. It always seems to be on the rally stages that this problem happens, and it's alleviated briefly when you seem to pass the first of the 3 checkpoints, which is really weird. But that aside, I don't have any problem with the quality of the game's production. It's clearly been made with a lot of love, care, and attention. There's one final element that I should address, and that's the graphical filter that lets you pixelize the environmental graphics, which is a really nice addition. I think the game looks more authentic like that. But then, having it all so crisp and clean also has its merits, so I'm not sure which I prefer. I've been sticking with the clean look myself, but I think if I had a screen even smaller than the Steam Deck, I would probably go for pixely mode to make it feel like a 3DS game or similar. The game does feel like a handheld racer in general, rather than a desktop game, so Steam Deck owners will probably like this very much. As for me, having paid for the game myself, as I say, I've played it for 4 hours, I finished it, and I'm a little bit disappointed with my purchase. I won't be going back to it. I just haven't enjoyed it as much as I thought I would, so I have to reflect that in the score. Sometimes games can be less than the sum of their parts, and sadly I feel that's the case here, and it gives me no pleasure to say that. So I give Victory Heat Rally a disappointing 2.5 out of 5. It is worth taking a look at it, especially if you like retro races. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do hit like and subscribe, and check out my channel where I have loads of other gaming videos, including a perfect run on Power Drift on 3DS. I also do a regular Sunday Let's Play of classic Sega games on original hardware called Sega Sundays, and you can see that playlist here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care until next time. Cheers.